In this episode of B.Hooked Crochet, I'm going to demonstrate how you can join your granny squares with an invisible seam. My name is Brittany and I'll be your guide throughout this tutorial. For the supplies list and written instructions, please visit bhookedcrochet.com/invisible seam. Let's get started. To join your squares using that invisible seam, what we want to do is grab just two of our squares that we're going to join, and a darning needle and a piece of yarn. So my piece of yarn is about 2 feet. That's about the length that I like to work with. It's more comfortable for me. You'll take your two squares and we're going to have them facing right side up. So the right side is facing up, and I'm just going to place them together. So now I have the wrong side on the outside of both squares. In order to make our seams invisible, we have to work in the back loops of our stitches. So if I just pull this up, you can see that each one of our stitches has a V. And so we're going to work in the back loops. Now this part's going to be a little bit deceiving because of the direction. So we're tempted to say the back loop would be the back away from us. So we would think that it would be this one. But that's actually incorrect. The front loop and the back loop are in the direction of the granny square facing forward. So right now we've just turned it backwards so that technically the back loop is facing us. So one way to make this a lot more easier to understand is that you're going to work in the loop that's on the wrong side of the square. That's going to be the back loop. Now we want to start with the corner and work down. So we'll find that chain 1 from our corner and we'll place our darning needle underneath the back loop. Then we'll jump over to our other granny square. We'll find that same chain, which you can see right here, and I'm going to go in the back loop of that chain. Now it's really important to line up our stitches. Since all of our squares are the same with the exception of the different colors, we have the same number of stitches on each side of the square. We want to make sure that we're matching up our stitches. That way our squares will come together evenly. So we'll find our next stitch, work our needle under the back loop, and then do the same for the stitch on the other side. Then we'll grab the back loop of this square and across to the other. And we'll just repeat that. That's how we do the invisible seam. And what I'm going to do is finish sewing up this side, and then we'll take a look at what it looks like on the right side after you do this. Now once you've made it back to the other corner, you want to hold on to this first end and the working end, and you just want to pull that nice and tight. Then once you turn your squares over, it's an invisible join. So we don't see the gray over here on this side, and it's a nice flat join, which is what you see in the pictures for this pattern. Isn't that such an easy technique? I love this joining technique for granny squares because, like I mentioned, it creates a nice flat seam and you can't see the contrasting colors. So this works really well when you have granny squares that are all different colors. If you're interested in the pattern that I was working on, that's actually going to be available tomorrow, March 14th, over at yarnspirations.com. I'm working on their fair and square blanket. We're using Caron 1-pound yarn, so it's the Caron Fair and Square blanket. That's a free pattern that's available on their website. I'll leave the link in the description below this video, and after tomorrow, my full video tutorial demonstrating how to crochet this blanket, including this invisible seam, will be available on March 14th. On behalf of BeHookedCrochet.com, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. We'll see you in the next episode.